What is up, everyone? Welcome back to the channel. It's your boy Bakali, and today's video is going to be on the C63s, as it always is because it's the main car of this channel. The video is on why I chose the C63s over the many other options on the market for the same amount of money. So the direct comparison for this car, I would choose the RS5, the new facelifted one, and also the M4 competition. So I'm going to compare this car versus the other two. Now, because of Corona and the quarantine and the lockdown, I can't have those cars with me to do a direct comparison in person. Hopefully when quarantine is over and it's safe to go outside, I'll be going to the dealership just so I can compare all three cars and give you guys a better in-depth comparison. For right now, we're just gonna go over why I chose this car over the others, and then we'll do a better comparison when we can. So let's get started with the video. One of the main reasons why I chose the C63s over the other cars is because of the looks. I mean, just to point out the fender flares, how wide the front looks and how angry it looks, especially with the new grille, the Panamericana grille. I mean, you can see how awesome that looks. I mean, in your rear view mirror, when you see that, you're probably a little scared, I hope. The rear fender flares are also pretty wide. Now, comparing to the M4 competition, I think the M4's rear is much more wider. Let's do a comparison shot. So obviously this is a C63s, and then you'll have the M4 here, and then the RS5 here. So the one thing to note about those two cars is that their body lines just aren't as aggressive as this car, in my opinion, especially in the coupe form. This is for the M4 competition coupe, and then also the RS5 coupe, not the Grand Coupe, which has 4 doors. I was pretty disappointed with how the RS5 looked, comparing it in the pictures when I saw it, and then when I saw one in person. The fender flares are just not as wide as the RS6 or the previous RS5 generation. I'm not sure why they didn't make it more aggressive. It's a little disappointing, but I mean, it still looks great. It looks like a really cool car, but I just don't like how flat it looks on the side. Just doesn't have any sort of flair. The M4 competition in comparison does have much more of a flare. The hood is very aggressive. I think the hood is more aggressive than my car, but in general, overall, I thought the C63s just looked way more aggressive than either cars. I'd probably rank it C63s, M4 competition, and then RS5 in terms of the looks department. Now, you can modify those cars to make them look more aggressive. RS5, you could probably get a body kit. M4 competition, you could probably also get a body kit, even though it is fairly wide, but not as good or as wide as the C63s. And that's just my opinion and why I chose this car over the other cars in terms of the looks department. You're probably thinking, uh-oh, he's got the engine bay open, and well, the other reason why I chose this car over the other ones is because of the engine. The C63s, as I've noted in my other videos, has a twin turbo V8 handmade by one person at the AMG factory in Afalterbach, versus the RS5, which has a V6 twin turbo, and then the M4, which also has a V6 twin turbo. Now, V6s are great engines, but they don't sound that good. And then once you add 2 turbos to the mix, it muffles it completely. It just does not sound as good as you want it to be. No matter what kind of exhaust you add to the car, it just doesn't sound like a V8. This car, as I've shown in many other videos, which you can watch here or there, sounds amazing from the factory. It does have the performance exhaust option, which makes it sound louder, but the engine itself, even with 2 turbos to muffle it a little bit, just sounds amazing. And if you add downpipes and things like that, it just sounds like a beast. Compared to the V6s of the RS5 and the M4, I'm actually going to play an exhaust clip of the RS5 and the M4 competition. So first you're going to hear the RS5, and then next you're going to hear the M4, and then we're going to play a clip from my car. All right, now that you've heard the other cars You can make your judgment on which one sounds the best from factory. In my opinion, obviously it's the C63S, and the reason why it's behind me now is because I think the C63S just sounds mental from the get-go, and you really can't beat the sound of a V8 versus a V6. In terms of power, the RS5 delivers around 444 horsepower. The M4 has about 454 horsepower, and then the C63S, the champion, has 469 horsepower. Now, those numbers are pretty dang close. I don't know if you can distinguish between 10 and 20 horsepower difference. The one thing though to note is the RS5 does have Quattro, so the 444 horsepower is delivered to all four wheels. The launch on the RS5 is insane compared to the C63S and the M4. Those guys just spin tires. I will give a point to the RS5 because of Quattro. It can deliver that power instantly, and it basically just flies because of Quattro. Meanwhile, the C63S and the M4 do have rear wheel drive, so it is a lot harder to lay down your foot on the pedal and actually go, because most likely you're just going to be spinning tires. All right, next thing to go over is the interior. Now, comparing to the other cars, we're doing the 2018 because this is when I bought the car. The 2019 has a new updated interior with the virtual cockpit and newer gizmos on the steering wheel and things like that. So we can't compare the new C63S just to 2018. Anyways, as you can see, at the time, the 2018 C63S was a little outdated. It still has the iPad style interior. It does have carbon fiber, which looks nice. Regular gauges, not the updated virtual cockpit. Now, compared to the RS5, which I'll put a picture up now, the RS5 has virtual cockpit, has a brand new interior, and a brand new MMI system. It's not the brand new Audi one, but at the time, obviously looked a lot better than this one and had a lot more gizmos and things like that. I did have a 2018 S4 before I bought this car, so I was pretty much used to having the virtual cockpit and things, so I didn't mind giving it up. In terms of interior, I would say the RS5 wins for the MMI and the technology in the car, but in terms of how it looks, I think the competition seats, as I've said many times before, look amazing and they look so cool. This interior is very cozy, and it just feels great to be in. This leather is very nice, very high quality on the dashboard as well. This steering wheel is custom from SW Custom. You can follow them on Instagram down below in the description. The regular steering wheel, I'm not a fan. Doesn't look that great. The SW Custom steering wheel looks a lot better. So if you have a 2018 C63S, get a steering wheel from them. Now, when you compare the C63S versus the M4 competition, the M4 competition, I would say, is very similar to the C63S. And I'll show you a picture of the M4 interior here. Very nice looking interior, nice materials, analog gauges, so they're not, crazy virtual cockpit. The tablet display, same thing, doesn't look that amazing, but the interiors are very nice, very cozy. Obviously, I chose the C63S interior because I had no choice when I wanted to buy this car because of the looks and the engine, but I will give the points to the RS5 again for the very nice and updated interior at the time. Now that the 2019 and 2020 C63S is out with the updated interior, I would say the C63S interior beats the RS5 today, but at the time of buying this car, I would say the RS5 looks better, but this one's not bad. It's cozy, just not as brand new, not as technologically advanced as the RS5, but it's on the same level as the M4 competition, in my opinion. All right, so let's talk about pricing. When I bought the 2018 C63S, I paid about $98,000. Now, as I described in my options video, which you can watch one of these corners, this car is fully loaded except the ceramic rotors. That's the only option it doesn't have. So this car probably in total goes about $100,000 or $102,000 total if you want a fully loaded C63S 2018 at the time. Now, the 2018 RS5 at the time was around $96,000 for a fully loaded car, which is very comparable to this car. The M4 competition was around $98,000 to $100,000, so pretty much on par with the C63S at the time. Those cars, all three, were pretty much fully loaded for the price. So in terms of comparing options and pricing, I would say it's probably 1 to 1 to 1. So when you look at those cars and you're trying to figure out which one you should buy, pricing doesn't really matter that much because you pretty much get as much as you would in each of the cars for the same price. In terms of performance and handling, I've driven the RS5. I have not driven the M4, so I don't know 100% how the performance of the M4 compares to the other cars. I did not test drive the C63S before I purchased it. I did drive an RS5, and I did have a 2018 S4. I know the RS5 is completely different than the S4, but in terms of Quattro and Audi feel, I feel like it feels very similar to the RS5 in terms of shifting, because it does have the same transmission, just not as much power. But in terms of handling, I feel like it feels very similar. I felt the S4 to feel quick. Around corners, it felt very nice. It just didn't feel sporty enough, and maybe that's why the RS5 was created, because it just feels much better than the S4, and I'm sure it does. Any RS5 owners can let me know in the comments below. But the moment I got on the C63S and I heard it start up, I fell in love instantly. Just hearing the engine noise of the C63S on startup, it just felt like a beast. When you change the settings, so in this car you have Comfort, Sport, Sport Plus, and then Race Mode. When you change those settings, you can definitely feel the change in shifting, the amount of power that you have, and also the steering feel. I noticed in Sport Plus and Race Mode, it feels a lot heavier. The RS5 only has, I think, 3 modes. It has Comfort, Individual, and Dynamic. When you're comparing the prices and knowing that these cars are very similar in terms of performance, it's kind of disappointing knowing that the RS5 only has 1 setting in terms of sport mode. Meanwhile, the C63S has Sport, Sport Plus, and Race Mode. And then obviously the M4 does have Sport and Sport Plus as well. I know you can do an individual on the RS5, and sure, you can change the settings to whatever you want it to be, but straight from the factory, this feels like a race car. The RS5, it just, it doesn't feel like a race car. It just feels like a over-glorified S5, which it pretty much is. And I mean, you could say the same thing with the C63S. It's just an over-glorified C-Class, but the S5 and the regular A5 get the same modes as an RS5. The C-Class, even the C43 AMG doesn't have race mode, so it just makes it more individual, makes it more of like a special car rather than just compared to a base car. The M4, I'm not 100% sure, but I think it does have the S Sport Plus for the regular 4 Series, but you don't get obviously the more power and things like that when you get an M4. So in terms of power, I was like, you know what? C63S has the most horsepower, has a V8 bi-turbo, looks amazing. It sold me instantly, and that's why I chose the C63S over the RS5 and the M4 when I could have bought those cars for the same amount of money. You also got to think about what you're buying. The RS5 comes from the RS division, the M4 comes from the M division, obviously, and then the C63S comes from the AMG division as well. But the C63's engine is made by one man, as they say, one man, one engine. And I think that's amazing, because for the same amount of price, you get a hand-built engine from one person, an expert in V8s. You get a hand-built engine, you get more power, and you get the satisfaction of hearing the sound of a V8 bi-turbo in your car. It's like, it's a no-brainer why you would want to buy the C63S over the RS5 and the M4, because you just get a much more, I think, an individualized, you get much more individualized car for the same amount of money, and it just makes it much more worth it to buy the C63S over those cars, because you're getting something more special, in my opinion. I mean, the RS5 and the M4 are great cars and are, special cars in their own way, but the C63S is a hand-built engine, more power and things like that. It just, in my opinion, it's just way worth the money. You can buy the RS5 and the M4 the same amount of money. The C63S is just much more worth it for the same amount of money, and that's why I'm driving this today. And you know, I was thinking if maybe next car would be an Audi. I'm not 100% sure, but if it is an Audi, it's going to be a V8, just to clarify, not a V6. When you're buying a car, you just want to make sure that you're evaluating all points on why you would want to purchase it. And every car is made for someone. And for me, the C63S just made sense, and it was my car, and that's why I'm driving it right now. Now, the M4 and the RS5 could be your car too. Maybe these points that I made don't matter. And you know, you don't have to, it doesn't matter. You don't have to care what I say. But this is my opinion in terms of owning the C63S on why I would purchase it over the other two cars and why I did. And these points make sense to me, might not make sense to you, might make sense to you, but I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I hope this helps you guys if you're trying to decide between those three cars on which one you want to buy the C63S. Let me know if you guys want more of these videos in the comments below. Don't forget to hit the bell, ring the bell, hit the like button, and please hit subscribe if you haven't already. All the support helps me. It makes me want to make more videos, so just let me know, and I'll see you guys on the next video.